Now, everything I'm about to say to you, I've not done any of it perfectly. Neither has Robin, so we are not an expert on this. I'm just throwing out 15 things that we've learned in 34 and a half years, and we didn't do it for some of the years, and then we figured some stuff out, and now this is a rule. Never, ever, ever, ever lie, ever. And you can lie in two different ways. You can outright lie, or you can just leave some stuff out. It's the same thing. I'm not going to tell you the whole truth. Second one is this. You have to take responsibility for your own sins and your own mistakes rather than play the victim all the time. What they did may be a reason. What you did is just not an excuse. You can never point at somebody else's life and say, that is why I had to sin. It's not true. So when it comes to sex, here's some learnings for me, all right? Ask for what you want or hope for, and then be thankful if you get it. All right? And when you don't get it, you don't shut down and go passive aggressive. Don't demand what you expect and then punish them when it doesn't happen. We're really good at this. I have hopes, I have wants, I have dreams, and I'm asking for something. But when I walk in and I demand what I expect you to do for me, you may get it. It won't work well. Never side with your children against your spouse in front of your children. Now, there are times when Robin and I and the family were having a discussion and the kids want to do something and I want to do something, Robin wants to do something, and I can look across the room and Robin is telling me, Jim, you're wrong, you're way off on this. And I can look at her and go, Robin, she has a good point here, okay? That's all true. The worst thing I could ever do is go, Robin, you're wrong. Allie, you're absolutely right. I don't know what mom's thinking, all right? No, we call a timeout and go, can I talk to you in the other room? Never undermine your spouse to your kids, and never use your children as counselors. I see this especially when marriages are going really, really rough, and we put our kids in the middle and we make them pick sides, or we actually ask them to counsel us about our marriage. That's not fair. What you're asking them to do is, will you side with me against your mom? Will you back me up with your dad? That's not fair. Every time I'm going to talk about spiritual rules and laws, I'm going to look at the husband and the father first. If you have to play the card, I'm the spiritual head of this house, and you play that card in order to force your wife or kids to do something, it's probably not true. What? That you're the spiritual head of the house, right? How can you say that? Jesus is the head of the universe, and he took on flesh, and he came to serve those he loved, right? Not once do you find Jesus walking into a room, pulling out his Jesus, I'm God and I'm in charge of the universe card, throwing it on the table and telling everybody to get in line and do what I tell you to do, because I'm the head and I'm the boss. No, he led in a different way. You must lead by example rather than directives in all the areas of your life. If you want to have spiritual authority over your family, you lead by example, right? You are the spiritual thermostat of your home. You are. Well, you can't stand before Jesus and he goes, hey, I entrusted you with this wife and these children, so did you point them towards me? And you can't look back and go, that really wasn't my deal, and I didn't know a lot about it, and so I sent them off to a private school, or I sent them to youth group at Flatirons, or that's kind of their mom's thing, and I just thought she would get it done. No. You're the spiritual thermostat of your home. You lead the way to church. If two become one, if Robin and I left our isolation aside, and now we are one, it just makes sense that you have one bank account together, right? I make all the money. Robin doesn't have a job. I can't say, I don't know if I want to give you my money. It's not my money because we're one. Keep on going with money because that's really awkward and people are staring at me. Make, agree, and execute a financial plan together on our money. What do we want to do with our money? Where do we want to point it? What is our goal together in money? How are we going to spend money? What are we going to do in these kind of circumstances? Right? And then regularly review that together and then go, okay, we're out of bounds here, or help me understand this over here, and then bring it back accordingly, together, tied to your local church. I'm just saying it. If this is your church, you should prioritize money in your life towards the things that God's doing here. And if you don't trust this place, you should find some place that you do trust. Because when you tie to your local church, you assure margin in your life. If you're saying, I'm going to take 10%, my first 10% off of my income, and I'm going to point it towards the things of God, you're now in a mindset of margin is carved into my life for the things that are important. I maintain correct priorities because there are some things that always come first, and it's a safeguard against greed. If you say, okay, I'm always going to put God first, then you have guaranteed, and Jesus says this a lot, be on your guard against all kinds of greed. Well, where does greed come from? A heart that got hard and selfish. So what is the antidote to a selfish heart? Generosity. So Robin and I, we tithe 10% or more back to Flatirons because one of us, we agree with Flatirons and what God's doing here, but also because what it does for us. It brings unity in purpose and goals. It keeps our priorities in line, and it keeps us out of debt. We never call each other names. Just because your wife acts bitchy, you can't call her that. Just because I do some really asinine things, I'm husband. I'm not an ass. Right? Because when you redefine me as something other than husband, other than wife, other than we're in this together, we are two become one, joined by God, now I can do something very different to you because you're just right? Never introduce the D word when you're in a fight. Don't bring up divorce as an option, a solution, or a threat, even when it's the only thing left to say. See, once you speak that out loud, you can't unspeak it. It's now laid on the table as an option. When you're fighting, stick to the related data, the facts, rather than jump to story and feelings and generalizations. Meaning this is, what happened? What's the data? You said you would do this, you didn't do that. You said you would be here, you didn't do that. You said that you would whatever, and then you didn't do that. That's the data. What is it really triggering in me? And here's what we looked at a few weeks ago. When you do that, it reminds me of how I felt back here and what happened to me back here that has nothing to do with you, but it makes me feel the same way. So I throw all of that at you, and it's not really your fault. How many fights have we had when we're in the makeup stage? We look back and go, babe, I'm sorry. There's just a bunch of crap going on at work, or I had this fight with this other person, or when you said that, it just brought up all those memories. Right. Not her fault. If it gets heated, and sometimes it gets heated, doesn't it? Take a time out in the next word and then re-engage. And that's really, really important. Is listen, I need to take a time out, or I'm going to say some things or do some things that I've done in the past, and I don't want to do those anymore. I need a breath. I need to take a walk. I need to just be by myself and just calm down, and I got to rethink some stuff. Right? I want to rethink because I don't want to do it the way I've done it before, and then I want to re-engage. Because listen, if you don't re-engage and you take that anger and you stuff it, it will lead to something worse. What do you want for your marriage? Where do you want to be a year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now? And you know what? If you go, I don't think I can ever make it to Rome. I don't think I can ever have that kind of marriage. So I'm going to go for something. I get it. But if you aim for Rome, if you aim for this marriage that Jesus described and you don't make it, you're at least going in the right direction. If you aim for this and you make it, Jesus says it's not as good as it could have been.